Good afternoon, everybody. What a pleasure it is to be with you again for our mental health webinar. We are quite excited to see quite a number of you have already logged on. We will be starting shortly. Today we have a very interactive session prepared for you in today's webinar. But as always, we are always very privileged to be joined by ADMI's counselor, our mental health professional who's on hand for all of us to walk us through how we can take care of ourselves at this time. My name is Ciku Munuku. I am part of the faculty at ADMI, and I will be your moderator today. I will be introducing now Joyce to please take over and go ahead and talk to us about how do we reclaim our identities at a time like this. You know, we've all come through the last 2020 into this year when the whole world globally is dealing with a pandemic. For some people, it has meant that they are, maybe forgetting who they are. So we're asking ourselves, what defines us, even at a time like this? So please let's welcome Joyce Ngugi, ADMI's counselor, who will also be our key speaker. You're welcome, Joyce.
Thank you so much, Ciku Munuku. Always a pleasure to be here. And good afternoon from Nairobi. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I see we have students, parents, guests of Africa Digital Media Institute. Today we are talking about identity. Identity plays a large and significant role in shaping each of our lives. We'll be learning about identity, which is actually a key pillar in my training. I'm a psychologist. And what is self-identity? That is the perception or recognition of one's characteristics as a particular individual. So I would say, relating to your context, what defines you? So please take a minute and type in the chat. I'd like you to tell me the answer to the question, who am I? So please start with I am. I am, then you can complete the sentence. I would like to just take a few comments on identity, and let me see if we have anything on the chat yet. So I'd like you to type in the chat, I am, and I'll just take a few, comments from the audience before I proceed with my slide presentation. So, who are you? Please take a moment to type in the chat. I know we are still coming in. Some of us are still inviting our colleagues, classmates, and so on and so forth. But I'd really like to hear from you. I am. And as we do that, I'll just proceed. I'll go back to the chat later. Oh, there we go. The answers are streaming in fast and furious. An African. Okay, and some people are saying good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for all your chats. Keep them coming. Let's get a few more. I only have one so far. I am an African. Anyone else want to share?
We have a few more.
Yeah, please. I just want to hear like 3 or 4, then I proceed.
We have a creative, a critic, a woman.
Interesting. Okay, great. Yeah,
a
I see
woman of substance. A thinker, a discoverer.
Okay.
There's several.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we are there. We are at home in the topic. So the topic is what defines you? I hope you can all see my screen. So how to discover, heal, and reclaim your identity. That's what we're going to be talking about for the next 2.5 hours. And we'll speak about your mind, body, soul, well-being connection. Some people would like to say soul, stroke, spirit. I'm using the terms interchangeably, but some of you, you have those as two distinct things, and that's all right. We'll talk about the self and your place in the community, and then holistic healing and the collective mind or conscious. Let me just start on a celebratory note. At ADMI, we always celebrate good things, and guess what? It's our 1-year anniversary since we went on the YouTube online webinars. I'd like you to all subscribe to our ADMI channel. And while you're at it, you can leave a comment. We have so many views. Let's put the likes up. Let's put the likes up. So our first webinar was on 10th July, Thriving in a Pandemic. And you can see all these webinars under the Mental Health Fitness series, all right? Then we had another webinar called Keeping It Update in September. And in February, we had our third webinar, Getting My Groove Back. And today we have the fourth such webinar. And this webinar is titled What Defines You. So congratulations on the 1-year anniversary. And let's keep connecting virtually as we heal each other. It's always amazing to be with the ADMI community. I've been at ADMI since May 2018. So it's a good 3 years now. And it's always amazing to have conversations with people in the ADMI community. All right, so keep going. If you haven't typed in the chat, who are you? I'd like to know. So I am, so keep typing. And then secondly, let me add one more question. How are you doing? So the last 18 months, or at least since the pandemic was declared in Kenya, have been quite challenging for everyone, both personally and professionally. So how's your welfare? How have you ensured your mental health and well-being for yourself and your community? And how have you found ways to thrive and flourish, especially in your academic journey? So this last part is for our students. And if you're a parent or a guest, don't worry, or a staff or faculty, you can just also tell us how you're faring. We are very interested in knowing how we are all doing. We have many spaces at ADMI where we speak like this, but today, only because of time, I'd like you to type in the chat, and maybe at the end you can unmute. For now, I'll not take any more, sharing. But I can see the chats are still coming, and let me just proceed. So the picture on the left was posted by somebody commenting on what's going on in Eswatini, as you saw recently in the media. And the youth in Africa are awakening. We now are having a very clear signal in our souls. We know that we are in highly dysfunctional social systems. And I should dare say this became exacerbated during the coronavirus pandemic. So in that case, out of that, we have a disconnect in our body, mind, soul, and spirit. And this may manifest as sickness and dysregulation. In fact, that's where the word disorder comes from. That sense of dysregulation and being ill, all right? So we also have majority of our students as young adults, and there is a growth and developmental stage going on where, young adults need to become individuated, which means independent and also interdependent. So this whole idea of self-determination, there's a lot of transition. I like to call young adults with the age of make or break. And therefore, a lot of us now are awakening to thrive and shine. ADMI is one of the very few colleges that did not shut down. So we've just been online connecting and studying and, and beginning to see which ways we can connect. I should say we've done very well in that area. So I see that you've written quite a lot in the chat. Some of you may say what defines you in various aspects. Some of you may talk about being a global citizen or global netizen. Some of you may talk about your Africanity. I think that was the first one, actually. Somebody spoke about their race or their, Then there was nationality. I see lots of gender, age, occupation, religion, even social, what kinds of clubs do you hang out with, and what's your class, You know, that's some other ways some people are defining themselves. And some people even can say, I am a child of so-and-so as a definition. So feel free to add a lot more. I would like to see a lot more charts. Who are you? And so you see in this picture, this person has very many different identities, okay? But today there is one interesting one I think we could focus on, is your personal identity or self-identity. And at the top of the circle there, you see values. Values are very critical. I'd like you all to go to the ADMI YouTube channel and watch the past webinar that I mentioned on keeping it upbeat. At around the 20th minute, I actually shared a link for a test called Values in Action. This is very critical. So at the heart of who we are our values. That is our character traits, our virtues, those things that are quite inner and hidden. And you can see in the self-identity, a lot of these things you can't really see, they're not visible. But this is also who we are. And this is where I would like us to dwell on today, mostly habits, you know, your personality, and things like that, all right? Now, let me talk a little bit about identity issues and psychological conditions. Mental illness itself is a stigmatized identity. Now, when we talk about mental health, there are two phases, all right? There's mental well-being and there's mental illness. But many people think mental health is all about illness alone, but no, actually there's the well-being and the illness. And certain conditions are actually diagnosable medical conditions, such as anxiety. That is when, for instance, you may suffer a negative belief that makes you completely afraid. So I'm not talking about the anxiety that you say in everyday language, I'm anxious. No, I'm talking about an anxiety disorder, where, for instance, in social situations, you're really scared. It could be based on a belief like not a very strong sense of yourself, all right? And insecurity is one of the symptoms actually of anxiety. And some people just have, you know, just insecurity, but not a full diagnosis of anxiety. Then we have depression. You've heard it also used in everyday language. So I'm not talking about that one, I'm depressed. I'm talking about clinical depression, where somebody might suffer a negative belief. Usually it's based on this idea that I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm unloved. And it could be that that could bring about depression. And hopelessness is another symptom of depression and can just exist on its own. Then there's addiction. If you, for instance, identify yourself as an alcoholic, and then you put it as a sticker label on your forehead, so you think that everybody can see you only in that identity, you see how that can be very limiting. Then we have codependency, which is this idea of relying on others for your sense of self. We talk about enabling behavior. So this idea that you always have another person as a reference, you know, to yourself rather than being fully individuated. Then we have certain other conditions that are psychotic symptoms, such as delusions of grandeur. Like, I know in our creative space, there's a lot of people who are celebrities, but I'm talking about a condition where somebody believes they are Jesus. You've probably seen stories of that, such people, or like they are a celebrity while they actually are not, just be a delusional thought. Then we have amnesia, this idea of just forgetting who one is altogether. And dissociative identity disorder, you've probably seen movies on people who have an alter ego, we call them alters. So one time you have this personality with this mannerism, and another time, another mannerism. And with treatment, it's possible to integrate the two into a more holistic identity. And of course, we talk about Erik Erikson, whose theory on growth and development in the stage called adolescence, talk about identity crisis, that when people become teenagers, they have to resolve a certain developmental crisis of either belonging or not belonging. And if somebody does not resolve this in adolescence, it can show up even in young adulthood. So we're going to do a little exercise, which is a reflection based on the Johari window. Jo and Harry. So Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham in 1955 devised a technique to help people understand themselves better. So you've got to know yourself in relation to other people as well as in relation to yourself. And this Johari window technique is used a lot in self-help groups and corporate setting, what you call a heuristic exercise or a self-reflective exercise. So now I'd like you to think about this. What do people say about you, such as, how do your close friends or family describe you? So that's the new question. Please type it in the chat. If I asked your closest friend, please tell me about so-and-so, what would they say about you? And so according to the Johari window, there are 4 parts. The first part on the top left is the open self. That is the public. It is known to the self and known to others. This is information about you that both you and others know. For instance, when you look at my screen, you can tell my gender. You can probably tell my ethnicity. You can give a shot, you can give a guess. If you're Kenyan, you'll probably guess that. And maybe my race, you know, that's public information. That's called the open self, all right? Then at the bottom left, the hidden self. That's information known to self, but not known to others, unknown to others. So that's the private self, all right? So there's some private details of everybody that other people in the public don't know, all right? You might want to think about what such things are. And then we have the blind self, all right? So have you ever been in a situation where, you know, you pass by a group of people and then maybe one of your friends calls you back, or even if they are strangers, and say, there's something about you, you probably don't even know. You usually just pass us and you don't say hello. I don't know if you've ever been in such a situation. So this is what I'm asking you to write. What other people think about you or say about you, or they know about you, but you don't know about yourself. We call that the blind self. And you know, every one of us has a blind spot. Imagine a vehicle which has the mirrors, and there are different mirrors that a driver needs to use, all right? But have you ever thought about, even if the driver has all kinds of mirrors, the side mirrors and the one at the top here, still there's a part of the vehicle, maybe at the back below, that they cannot really see. So that's the blind spot. So what is your blind spot? What do you think other people know about you that maybe you don't know, or maybe you also know? So I'd like to see that in the chat. And finally, the unknown self. So information about you that you don't know and others don't know. This is a really interesting part. If you don't know and nobody knows, then what is it? So you can't quite describe it, right? But there's a lot of possibilities. There you can be anything you want. So we could begin the journey of self-healing. Could you please tell me, how can you be now that you are not being before, right? How can you be now that you are not being before? For example, in the pandemic, I have learned how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I've learned to stretch myself. I've learned to do things and to be ways that I was not before. So ask yourself that, how you're being now, right? Then what do you now know? What are some new insights that are being evolved in your self-enlightenment journey so far? A lot of you are very idealistic young adults, and at ADMI, we treat all our students just as professionals. You all are getting insights, because by being here today, it's testament that you are thriving and flourishing. And then what capacities can you re-engage now? So just gonna check in the chat and see if anyone has, written that for us. So you could tell us how you're being now, like describe it, an adjective, what you now know, some insights, some new knowledge, and what capacities or abilities that you can start or continue. For example, for me, I have actually started, and that was a great thing. I think it's what you call a pandemic blessing. And because a lot of us are sheltering at home, working from home, schooling from home, and we're doing a lot of things online, this is a new capacity that's enabling me to really enjoy being fit and things like that. So let me see what people have so far. I see, okay, interesting definitions here. Somebody says a friend, a confidant, listens to her, cares about her, scolds her when she's misbehaving, and some people say that she's a snob. She just minds her business because she keeps to herself. I think she's an introvert. That's interesting to know what other people think about you. And then I see a lot more people, I think this was the previous question about how they're doing. People are saying, I'm doing well, I'm good, I'm getting better every day, taking it a day at a time. Things have been super, opportunities and utilizing the chances and not forgetting to prioritize what's important. That's amazing. So blessing in disguise pandemic hashtag. I love that hashtag. Yeah, there are several pandemic blessings that we can ponder about. So keep typing how you're being, what you know, and what you can now do. I'd like to take a few more, so keep typing. So I don't know if anybody else has typed. So how you're being, what you now know, what you're doing. I'm not sure, Ciku, you can see any new charts. Can you?
Yes, I think there was some who were saying, did you see the one saying I'm doing better mentally?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to scroll up.
Yeah, let me just show the question again. So how are you being now? What do you know and what can you do? So those are the being, knowing, and doing questions.
Okay, we have someone, Austin from Kisumu, saying he's doing well despite the anxiety caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. He's keeping positive.
Oh.
So, Annette is grateful and taking it a day at a time. Someone is confident and contented with themselves, as Esther.
Okay.
So we have a mix of people defining themselves and how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some new ones. What I know is I'm getting better day by day.
Oh, that's amazing.
And Brenda says I'm being open-minded and volatile.
That's amazing. Wow. I think I can proceed now. I really like this picture by Victor Musau. And he says, he's one of our students, he says, you are not a human doing, you're a human being. So that's the reason why I asked you the being, the knowing and the doing. So remember always you're a human being, okay? So what defines you is your being. And so just as I finish some tips on holistic well-being, a lot of the things I've been saying here are just as in the past webinars. We've got to take care of ourselves in all our different aspects, right? Physically, I always recommend breathing, and that actually helps you feel better. If you're anxious, just do some deep breathing and body work. That's basically being in tune with the body. We now know there's a body-mind connection, right? And so a lot of the not being at ease or the disease actually just comes from our body. So we've got to take care of ourselves. I think we all know what that means. Balanced diet, sleep. We've got to be reminded to sleep and rest, because I know creatives, they take on a lot of ideas all at once. And that creative genius needs a good night's sleep, all right? Then psychological well-being, that's about your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors. You've got to process your past experiences and integrate them in your identity, all right? So that you are whole. And then of course, spiritual or soul, your soul, who are you authentically, you know? You've got to really reconnect with who you are, and who you are is who you say you are, you know? And so social, of course, I know many people still use the word social distancing. We need to stop using that. WHO changed it to physical distancing. So we need to still stay connected socially and not socially distanced. There's another nice quote here by James Baldwin that I love. It's written, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. This is an American or African-American activist who actually came up with this. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We've got to face those things in our identity, both as personal or individual people and as a community. So cultivating a sense of oneness, that's like Ubuntu philosophy, holistic healing and the collective mind. So this is about our collective consciousness. We know that at ADMI as a community, we take care of each other. And if any of you would like to have a session with me, I'm going to also share my contacts at the end of this presentation. And now I'd like us all to just reflect about moving from a wound to a want to a wonder, right? So those things that you say that you're being and that you're knowing and that you're doing, some of the things that you've been through as experiences might be hurtful. Those could be the wounds. But from those, you might want to see which are the wants in there, what you actually need, all right? Where are you hurting and you can actually begin to heal? And then moving from that to a wonder. In other words, just staying with the miracle of being alive, you know, and being healthy and being here, right? So that's it from me. And my phone number is 0748 600 772. You could also send me an email at counsellor@africadigitalmedia.org. So I'd like to now hand it back to Ciku. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Joyce, for that wonderful presentation. We have learned so much. And, you know, the presentation is going to be the basis of our conversation going forward. We're now going to be moving to the panel discussion. And there is just so much we will have to ask Joyce as we go on, because, you know, at this stage when we are all grappling with what we've just been through in the pandemic, and then of course, just life, you know, sometimes we forget who we really are. And so I will be reintroducing Joyce as she stays on to join our panel. We have a wonderful panel for you today, and I'll just be introducing them in a minute. It is important for me to also highlight the fact that our topic for today was chosen by one of our students. He created a beautiful poster. I think Joyce shared it at some point, and shared it with Michelle, who's in charge of student affairs. And so we said, and for the next webinar, then this is what we'll be discussing. I'm a human being, not a human doing. So many of us, we tie in our identity with what we do. So we are very grateful to Victor for his creativity and the fact that he is initiating and leading, because that is what now we are following event today. So I would like to now introduce the panel, of course, starting with our wonderful counselor, Joyce Ngugi. Joyce is ADMI's counselor. She's our in-house professional, but she's also a consultant psychologist with 15 years experience. She's a global award winner at the APA 2018 convention. She's a TED Talk laureate on humor for resilience. I know she also has done a course that has to do with helping with creatives. And I know she often says that she's the mechanic for creatives. That is where we go to get fixed. So when she's at ADMI, she is at home with the creatives. Joining the panel as well, we'll be joined by Nzilani Simu. Nzilani Simu is a visual artist. She's who specializes in illustration, hand lettering, infographics, identity design, and visual advocacy. And she finds inspiration in the African landscape, from animals to plants and flowers. A true creative. She also enjoys learning and conveying African stories in her art. Her hand lettering practice moves her through music lyrics to inspirational quotes. She's passionate about design for social impact, particularly when it comes to an African lens and projects focused on women's rights. Her art brand, Kulula, is an outlet for creative expression where she also sells art goods and holds occasional workshops. She's also been faculty at ADMI in graphic design since 2016. So we welcome you, Nzilani. Today's panel is made up of creatives who also know something about the education section because they're in it, and you will see why I'm saying that. We are also joined by Wanjiku Njoroge. Wanjiku is a seasoned producer and production manager with over 13 years of local and international experience. Ranging from the set to the boardroom, she has a deep passion for people and telling stories that impact and change the lives of people. Wanjiku has been involved in the creation of documentaries, commercials, corporate videos, among others. And she has worked for diverse clients, including the presidential debates we watched in 2017. She's worked with Supersport, BBC Global Questions, CNN Awards, Nusu Productions, The Nation Media Group, Level 1 Production, and KBC, among others. So she also is co-faculty at ADMI in the film and television department. She's the team leader, and she has also worked on an array of projects, but it is the people and the experiences that make her job invaluable. That is what means the most to her. She's a graduate of Daystar University with a Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication, and she's currently pursuing further education at Stanford University, Graduate School of Business. So those are the ladies, and I'll introduce another lady a little later on. We're also going to be joined by Brian, who is a graphic artist who loves working with abstract ideas, breaking them down and putting them together to tell a story. Brian's style is a mix of hand-drawn illustrations, and he has worked with a variety of clients and companies ranging from small purpose-driven organizations like Heart Kenya, Kuana Trust Art Center, ITC Ethical Fashion, to global brands like Coke, MasterCard Foundation, Goethe Institute. And he's also had the honor of receiving many awards and recognition in his field. And his favorite, of course, is being the Young African Artist Prize by MasterCard Foundation. He also has received Best Digital Art in the Sondeka Awards. He's a finalist on the L'Atelier Art Competition in South Africa. And he also has received the Survivor's Choice Award in the Art to End Slavery exhibition. So Brian is actually one of the best illustrators we actually have in the country. He wants to use his talents to help connect, communicate, inspire, and motivate people to achieve their goals. His specialties are in digital art and illustration, design for print, web, corporate identity, advertising. Hi, and of course, in public speaking. Then we're also going to be joined by another creative. Mike Mwema is a young and energetic, passionate individual who loves music and food. And he'll tell you a little bit why. So Mike is a music producer, and he's also a chef. He's a DJ as well. He gained interest in the art of DJing after watching his former boss perform back in 2017. And he got an opportunity to own to work in a radio station, which he named Manyata. And that was the first Christian DJing show on Kenyan Airwaves at the time. So Mike has featured in various concerts and events, such as the Plug and Play, Totally Sold Out, Earth Dance, Aduma, and Social Life, just to name a few. He's a firm believer in good music. His main sound is electronic music with a heavy influence of Afro sounds, in particular Afro house. So I've given you that detailed description of this part of the panel because as much as they may also have been faculty or are faculty at ADMI, there's the other aspect to them. We need to understand they're creatives, they're people working in the creative media industry, and they are back on demand because by the time we were done with the last mental health webinar, there was a demand for part 2. So we have brought back from the last panel, we are honored and privileged to have the four creatives I've just talked about. Then we are also very excited because we are joined by two of our own students, with Madam President, the President of the Student Council, Irene, and the Vice President of the Student Council, Luther, who they're both students at taking their diploma in film and television, and they will tell us a little more because I know they're doing a lot of stuff outside of ADMI. Now we will go straight into the conversation, and I would like, if there is a way we can have them spotlighted so I can be able to see all of them together, so that as we carry on with the conversation. So first of all, Joyce, thank you so much again for that beautiful presentation. At a time when we are in this space whereby we are trying to figure out, where do we turn? There is the fatigue we're going through based on what we've come through with the pandemic that doesn't seem to be ending. There are dreams that seem to have been put on the back burner for now. How do we still rediscover, our identities? Where do we start? Because so many of us, our identity may have been built on what we do, not who we are, So how do we then still believe in ourselves, even at a time when, what we do may have been affected for some people. Some people have had to put things on hold, others have had to close businesses, others have lost jobs, so it's a mix here. I know we have some parents, we have the students, of course, being the majority. We have, members of our ADMI community. How do I reclaim my identity?
Was that for me?
Yes, we start with
okay.
you.
Yeah, just checking. Thank you so much for moderating as always, so beautiful. So yeah, you're right. There has been a lot of disintegration and loss over the last couple of months. And yes, we could still integrate who we are as people because part of our personalities are not rigid. We are growing, we are flexible, and we can always create who we are in every situation. So picture this, we are all in an ocean in the middle of which we've got to ride the waves. So this is not the time to drown or give up. We don't know where the shore is. There's a lot of uncertainty. Yeah. And definitely that brings anxiety. But when we just create accurate facts and, anchor ourselves in who we truly are. And I like how you started off by saying, yeah, we're truly human beings, not doings. In that case, we can integrate all of these losses and grief. Even just today, a friend of mine told me they've lost their father, like there's a lot going on, but we can come together and listen to each other and actually also begin to shift and break negative patterns, healing from our past starts from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joyce. So maybe I will just maybe go to Wanjiku. How are you? And how are you, first of all, coping in this period? And how is your identity looking like right now? Who do you say you are?
Okay. Thanks, Rico. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, like you had, my name is Wanjiku. For the most part, I'm fine. Now I can actually say, I'm fine. Last year, it was a day at a time. So it would depend on what day you asked me because it was so much uncertainty and all of that. But I'm actually very fine.
Good.
I'm doing great. I'm actually excited for the second half of 2021.
Yeah.
And when it comes to my identity, now, because now, okay, I'm older, I have a few experiences under my belt. So for me, my identity, it's hard to define me by just one part of my life. Like Joyce was saying, some people it's what they do, or who they are. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, that kind of thing. So there's all those like labels, but for me, it's always how I feel. It's about what I'm feeling in the moment and why. So whether it's concern, it's sympathy, it's love, it's joy, it's happiness, whatever it is, it has to be, for me, it has to be tied to a feeling, because if I'm one of those people, if I'm not feeling something, I'm not going to do it. If I'm not excited, if I don't feel it, I won't do it. Like if there's no why for me, I'm not going to. So my identity is tied a lot to, what's the word I can get, to intention, always the intention behind a particular action or something I say, something I do, whatever, it's always tied to that, the intention behind it. That's what I would say.
Very interesting. I think we'll come back to that. Let's get in a few thoughts from Nzilani. How are you? And how are you doing, first of all? And again, where are you drawing your identity from right now? What defines you right now?
Okay. So, well, I've been fine. I like Wanjiku said, I think this year is much easier. It's different. But like some other people I know who are feeling it, kind of like there was a hard part somewhere near maybe maybe the second month of the year where it's sort of like, oh, this again, it hasn't changed, there's no cure, there's another lockdown, so so that was a bit not destabilizing, but it sort of brings you down, and it's like at the last year you're fighting against something, now this thing you have to settle into that this thing might be for a longer time. So but generally okay and much better. And what defines me, I'd say that probably when I'm creating, when I'm making something, that's where I find my most joy. So so I'd say the things that I can create, or when I'm creating, defines it, feels that. So I guess I'm a maker. That would be one of the things that defines me. And also probably advocating for something that has meaning. I search a lot for meaning in things, and I think it helps me find meaning in life. So for life, in life. So if I'm making something that has meaning, but doesn't always have to have meaning, but finding meaning probably is one of the things that defines me. So it's a circle.
Because you're creative, so as you create, you find more meaning, and then you find meaning in creating itself.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. We'll pick up on that as well. Let's at least get to see Brian. How are you? And how are you doing? And what defines you? Hi.
I don't know if I have an answer for what defines me. I think a bit like what Chico said, like I do feel a large part of my identity comes from the people in my life, like me being firstborn son, me being friends to my brothers, me being there for my students, but also the work that I do and the joy it gives me, like the sense of purpose it gives me. So I tend to, like, I think my being is to try and excel in all those different areas I've been given to do. And of course, sometimes you do it well, other times you make mistakes. So I do feel there are good days, there are days I'm still growing. This year, it's been good. There's a lot of sort of what do you call seeds that were planted, and there's a lot of hard work last year that now has sort of been harvested this year. But it's also been quite exhausting, especially the last few months. I've felt like it's been more exhausting than most. Kind of having a lot of things to balance, a lot of things to kind of figure out how to work all of them. So again, learning how to prioritize. It's almost like the same things come back to your life, but now in a different style, a different shade. So figuring out how to handle those things in a different way. So sometimes it might mean turning down certain opportunities you'd have loved, because now you realize there's just not enough time for you to do and excel at everything. So trying to figure that out so that I don't burn out.
You've mentioned a keyword there, burnout. I think that is something I've been experiencing myself at this time. It's interesting how we've heard that for Nzilani and Wanjiku, the year is better. I think for me, it's that thing of how we thought, when the pandemic started, I was saying by June we are good, So So just sanitize, mask up, social distance, physical distance, and then we are good, it's over. Then we come and we realize it continues and continues and continues and continues, you know? And I think for some people maybe feeling, you know, if you're not careful, between all the work you got to do, because life has had to shift back into full gear, and if you're not having any self-care, that you may actually find yourself burning out. So that's something also we'll be talking to Joyce about as we go along. So thank you, Brian. Let's see, Mike. How are you? And what do you remember from? Gosh, I've gone straight back into the classroom. Straight back into the classroom. But generally, what is defining you right now? How are you doing?
Hey guys, my name is Mike Bowman. Thank you for having me today. Yeah. To answer your question, this year has come with a lot of setbacks, especially you know, and coming from that recovery. Okay, sure, I had COVID this year, and it was really intense, and it slowed down a bit of everything in my life, and slowly I'm trying to recover back again. But what defined that point was, you know, getting close to family and friends at the same time, because it was so intense. So much. And I kind of felt like there was a disconnect between myself and even the outside world, because the isolation.
So you said a disconnect between?
Between myself and the social world. So there was that disconnect for a very long time. Being in isolation for more than 30 days was, you know, was a bumpy and rocky ride at the same time, you know. Being in the house for close to every day, in the house for all the time in the house. The only time you go to the light, when you open the curtains, open the door, and now slowly recovering to that point. You know what? This was done. Let me try and pick myself up. Currently, I'm back at work.
Good.
Right now.
Good.
Basically, what defined everything that I do right now. I'm deeply involved in music production, involved in culinary arts, deeply involved in DJing, promoting and everything, you know. Even in our culture right now, even in the event space, things slowly adjusting, you know. And coming back to the main point, like Brian said, setting priorities. Having priorities. What is it that I can do to accommodate this at a time? There's some gigs I'll get, like for example, and I'll be like, you know what, it's not a must to do this. You know? Because I'm coming from a place where I'm prioritizing, and I'm saying, okay, from this hour to this hour, I'm doing gigs, this hour to this hour, cooking somewhere, this hour, using some of the advertisement, some music, you know. So for me, prioritizing has been part of something that has been heavy for me, especially and looking back, looking at our economy right now, it's not easy getting a job right now. It's not really easy. It's so hard getting a job. Getting that source of income. As much as little as it is, I never spoke to a role when it comes to deciding what to do.
I don't know why the sound is breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So saying that prioritizing and looking at how the source of income, it's kind of shifted.
Right? So,
prioritizing, you know, you can be good at everything, but once you learn how to prioritize,
and if you don't,
sorry,
No, I was just just finish, because I was going to jump onto what you're saying about prioritizing. If you don't prioritize and you're gifted and you have so much to offer, there'll always be somebody who needs something from you at some point. And so if you don't know how to prioritize, then at the end of the day, you can find yourself burning out.
Proper, like everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then automatically your body will just say, check it like today, you're not working. Relax.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
You come to a point your body just saying, check it. Lala.
Yeah.
Sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rest.
Very true. Very true. Thank you, Mike. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through what we went through with COVID, I think by this time last year, very few of us had either experienced it firsthand or had somebody in our immediate circle who'd gone through it, And now on this side of the pandemic where we are, I think all of us know somebody, met somebody, or been that somebody who has gone through the COVID. Almost every family has been impacted by COVID. I lost somebody very close to me, from COVID. I mean, I know some of my colleagues, Mike has said that he's gone through it. So maybe back to Joyce, I mean, there is that reclaiming because indeed, as Mike has said, somebody who's vibrant and out there all the time, having to go through the isolation, having to have to be away from the thing you love to do because of the sickness and away from the people you love because of that. Or even in a home where everybody has to be in separate rooms and stay there because of the pandemic. Sometimes those bonds, are stretched, and how do we then make sure that we keep who we are, at the forefront of our minds, that even if, as Mike has said, jobs have been lost. Some people are having a hard time, economically because of what has happened. We have students who maybe are in homes where they're looking and seeing this is not how home used to be before COVID, and are having to, be able to, needing to now, learn how to live their lives with strong self-esteem, even with reduced income. Is that something possible? And I'd want even the panel, maybe to speak on that, because some people's identity came from how much money they had, or the neighborhood they were living in, or the number, how much money was flowing into their account, that maybe may have reduced. How do we then still remain confident in who we are, even when it has meant shifting from the neighborhood you've been in? I don't know if Joyce can hear me.
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. I couldn't see you.
Yeah, so just taking a moment to just let all that sink in, and I really acknowledge Mike for sharing that. The self-identity is that foundational continuity that makes us us, it's that feeling of the self, but it's true, it has been shaken to the core. Yeah. Some people, you don't even know who we are anymore because there's been so much changes, so much transition, and so many challenges for a lot of us. So again, going back to who you are at the very core, what makes you and what are your values, those things keep you. So for instance, if you could do the values in action test, then you realize your character strengths. You might just begin to discover things like, I am courageous, I am patient. And those are the things that actually are having you thrive and flourish and continue surviving. And even up to now. And my heart goes out to all of us who've been affected.
Yes. And I really want to say, it's really such a gift to actually be able to do what we do today. After, I don't know for you guys, but do you feel that sense of the fact that you're still here, the fact that you're well at a time like this, still doing the thing you love to do? What a blessing that is. Maybe I'd love to hear from any of you. Who wants to jump on that? The blessing of that you're still able to create regardless of what's happening.
Okay. I think also, Shiko, first, it's important, like when you said, in terms of, reduced income and things like that, it's important for people to realize it wasn't their fault. It was a worldwide pandemic. So, if your identity was, in what you do and how much money you're making, the neighborhood, it wasn't something you did.
Yes.
So once you can get over that, then you can understand and realize, okay, it wasn't my fault, so I don't need to beat myself up over this.
Yes.
And then I can make a game plan. What else can I do? In the pandemic, we saw people who they became, chefs, bakers, caterers. Like people found out like their hidden talents. People are going. Builders was empty. People bought all the drills, hammers, because guys were DIY shelves, chairs. So you get to discover also other things that you're good at or that you can do, or maybe. And this is something I was guilty of. This is something I really wanted to do, but before the pandemic, I always used to say I don't have the time. So the pandemic actually told me, sit down somewhere. You have the time now. Your problem was time. Okay, here is time. A lot of it. So let's see if time is still going to be your excuse, right? So for me, okay, let's speak for myself. It was important for me to realize it's not anything I did. It's not my fault. It was just a worldwide pandemic. In terms of being grateful and happy, creating content and I tell my students this all the time. We make programs and movies and films and stuff like that for two reasons, so that people can do something or feel something.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the programming through the pandemic, it was about, hope and humanity and stuff like that. It was like emotional programming. So creating content that makes somebody happy or feel better about themselves or develop some confidence or whatever it is, it's always going to be a great thing. It's always going to be a good feeling. It's always going to be fun. It's always going to be the reason we do what we do, So for me, I'm always going to be grateful and happy and still doing this at 110 years old.
I like that. Very good.
That's just for me. Yeah.
Thank you. And Nzilani, what are your feelings?
Well, I'm grateful that I was able to continue what I'm doing. Definitely. I don't know. It would have really been a seriously really terrible time to not be able to do those things. But I mean, as we mentioned kind of last time, kind of the creative industry for people who work online, like graphic design, animation, it improved. So I'm really grateful for being able to have even more interesting things to do. And because of, there's an element of kind of like everything has stopped. So there's no more kind of rat race. So that means that I don't have to just do things to make money, kind of. So I was able to, so at first I had to take anything that could give me money. But at some point I was able to choose what I wanted, because it's okay if I don't have to make all that money right now. And like, as in I can survive as long as I have enough to survive, right? Because so I can choose more things that I actually want to do. And I really like what Brian said about like planting the seeds and then harvesting them. It's kind of like choosing those things meant I got more things that are like those things that I like. So it was good to be able to just be able to refocus kind of with the clarity. I guess clarity. That's the best. That's the
okay. Yeah. That's the gift that came from this period.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, there's no point in entering this rat race. You'd rather just do. I like the stories of people who were accountants, like what Ciku was saying, accountants who finally loved to draw, who suddenly became a visual artist. There's so many people like that, used to work in job development or traveling. They used to work jobs where they had to travel. So now they've become a visual artist because they could draw in their free time, and some real talent has come out in the world during that, because of that. So I think that time of just quiet brought some clarity, or like hope for those dreams, because I mean, in the worst way, like to say the worst thing is you could die tomorrow. It became like that thing of we could die tomorrow, so may as well do the thing you like.
Okay. And there's nothing
that's pretty dark. I don't mean it darkly, but you know what I mean.
Don't worry.
Like anything, the world is going crazy. Let me do the thing I want to do. Yeah.
Don't worry, Nzilani. Between you, the CS of health, and all the briefings, we get it.
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Brian? what is the gift that has come with this period?
Definitely just deep appreciation for the work that we do.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of, I actually enjoyed now that quiet time where now you can get to chill, you can get to create, less hassle of traffic, getting to class physically and getting home. Although there was also added stress of coordinating classes online, which we're used to doing in person. But somehow that extra time gave me the ability to do more stuff that I would have otherwise put off. That silence also helped you to connect creatively, like with yourself. So like I'm super appreciative of like the gift I have. You know, sometimes you grow up, especially like boys, you grow up idolizing sports people, but a sports hero has to retire. No, right now we're watching Cristiano Ronaldo in probably his last Euro tournament. This guy will have to retire. But I never have to retire from being an artist. I'll be an artist for as long as I want. So I always appreciated my work. Now I appreciate it even more. And then also just appreciating, like if you are a curious person who's into tech, and like now these last 2 years has been our time to shine. Like people who didn't shy away from, oh, what does Zoom do? What does Skype do? What do these technology things do? Now is when you really, people in the office are just like, hey, we appreciate this guy.
It's your time to shine.
That's what I've been appreciative of.
Yeah, and you know, the reality is in the world, even the mainstream organizations like mainstream churches and mosques and all those places who did not realize they needed strong digital spaces, you know, had to readjust. And that's, as you've said, the guy who knew how Zoom works was a star in that organization. But the flip side is also true, you know, because in this panel, Mike has had to leave because he has to just he's getting into work. And so he sends his love as he leaves. But for guys like Mike, maybe part of Wanjiku's industry as well, it was the opposite of what Nzilani and Brian went through, whereby for you guys in your industry, you had more than you could do. Anybody into editing, graphic design, content creation. But there's the other side, the film industry slowed down. The music, entertainment, events slow down. So there's that, there's both sides of it, whereby some people are like trying to figure themselves out in the midst of all that. But there have also been some young people who've had to go to school at a time when there's a pandemic and there's very creative, fun loving, full of life. So Irene, how have you been coping? How are you doing? Madam President, Irene is the president of the Student Council at ADMI. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm good. So coping was really hard, especially as like our first semester we started during the pandemic, like the real pandemic side. And actually the entire semester, I had not seen any of my classmates face to face. So it was like high-tech YouTube videos, like as it felt like we're learning on a YouTube thing. Because we couldn't see each other. It was all virtual. Our lecturers, our students. And then, so there was also that fear that we don't know if the pandemic will end. And then, like you said earlier, the film industry was going down. Like there's no social, you can't relate with people, so you need to be distant and all. And what you're learning is how you have to be a team, you have to work together. Meaning like whatever you produce, you'll produce physically. So it was really hard, honestly. And sometimes you'll rethink, like, are you in the right track? And then, because actually our first semester, we never had any physical contact, any practical. So there was also that notion that by the time we're done, will we be professionals? Like we're competing with guys who studied on normal days, you know?
You are worried you'll be able to define what a camera is, but not use one.
Yes, exactly. You like theory part of this, like, yes, we learned it is a camera. We know the things we should do, the kind of shots, but how to do them will be hard. But I think with time we adapted. It was, how I say it, bad things are good things in disguise. Because of that, we started valuing the moments we have and valuing each and everything we have. And every small knowledge that you get, any small opportunity you get to have a practical class. Like, I think in our class semester 2, we really like, we went with it, yani. We were so active, you know, even helping semester 4, like, we really wanted this. Yes. So we took it positively. Like, this is an opportunity we have. We are hopeful that the pandemic maybe will end. And if it doesn't end, we need to come out of it stronger and better, because at the end of the day, we know why we're here. So I think that is the one thing that has made it make sense and adapted to the new norm. And become more creative and take any opportunity you get a chance to do something, to run with it.
Very nice. I'm seeing your lecturer nodding in approval. Saying yes, I taught you well. Very good, very good. We also joined by the Vice President of the Student Council. So Luther, for you, how has it been like? You know, how is it going? How are you doing?
Hi, I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
So for me, it has been, I wouldn't say that it's too bad or too good, because I understand that everything happens with a reason. So basically, I wasn't that guy like going to do things online. I usually enjoy things practical also. But then at least I got some knowledge on how to do things now online. But I agree with Irene, because we are in the same class, and it's basically the little time that you have with each other, you need to do things, because we came together, then many things just rushed at once. You became more creative, I understand. But even online, I really appreciate the lecturers, because their time online is no joke. It's really no joke. It's tough, but it's no joke. It's tough, but at least they held our hands and taught us like how to adjust on it. So for me, I'd also say that the pandemic has made me like more confident and more creative, because before the pandemic, I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was just studying straight. But when it started, now I became a content creator. I do social media content creation. On these platforms, TikTok. So it made me start now to build. Now you see, like, when I start content creating, I understand now what we are learning, because I'm not just shooting things because of just shooting. I'm putting the things that we're taught in school now on practice. So I'd say it has been 50-50 online. It has been, I've learned a lot, also physically, but now I'm kind of used to physically meeting.
And I can tell you guys cherish being with each other, you know. Even when you don't have to be there, you find ways to make it all work, you know, which is so beautiful, which is really beautiful to see, because it means you love what you do. But again, I'll ask the young people again. I mean, and everybody's young. So in this panel, let me just clarify. I don't want trouble. Everybody's young. So let me clarify. The people who are in still are students at ADMI, they're the ones I'm talking to now. You know, most young people, their identity is tied to sometimes, you know, some, you know, aspects of partying and, you know, that kind of a lifestyle, you know. So of course, if you're in Kenya, you know, there was nothing like partying. At least everything was closed down at some point, you know. And then during the day, you're in a class. Then of course your parents expect you home by a particular time, because they know from class is home. So when that was taken away, how did you still, okay, let me just ask it this way. How do you then maintain your fun outside to you know, still enjoy your youth? I'm not saying every young person has to party. I'm just assuming, you know, they need to go somewhere in the evening. For that person who feels that is the only way to be identified as cool and hip and young, how do you maintain your identity? So both of you need to answer. So we can start with Irene. They're like, this is a live bomb. I'm not touching live wire.
Okay. I think, yeah, we just put it on the spotlight. Okay. But the thing is, as Lisa said, we have to have fun, and then there's influence if all your friends are having fun, and then all of a sudden that has stopped. So personally, I think what I did is I still try and have fun the way I can with a social distance in a way. Like we can't go into clubs, okay, fine. I can call one or two of my friends and then we can hang out at home or do some social things. And also, I decided to, like nowadays, when I love outdoor activities. So the beauty of the pandemic is now we don't have to go to the club. We can go to park and chill somewhere, you know, we can go hiking, we can do adventure. And the beauty actually of this pandemic is that it has brought out new hobbies, like new nice hobbies. You realize like, I don't have to go to a club and have fun. We can just and go hike somewhere and have fun. We can do games, you know, we can do games. So those are the kind of things that the pandemic has helped, and that is the things that we do nowadays. Like, I don't even remember last time I was in a club, but so that is the thing. So we've embraced
more creative ways.
Yes, more creative ways, and sometimes like you go, like for example the rally, you just decide to go there.
Vasha,
but not Nigeria. A lot of things that are trendy, but also the good side of Vasha.
Yes.
No, there is. You know,
no, we believe you. We know there is. we are with you. We are with you.
Like for example, I did go, and when I went, I shot an episode. I have a YouTube channel called Young Talk. So I shot an episode with them. It will come. Make sure you subscribe, people. Yes, I will release it later. So you see, there's still beauty. I still had fun, and I still created something out of it. And if I say to go to hike, because my channel is all Young Talk, and I try to embrace things that affect young adults, including myself.
Yeah, very good. And I know the truth is that you know, the new ways of having fun are even healthier because you're out in the fresh air, you're exercising. If you're hiking, I mean, it ends up being exercise, you know, getting out there. Then you can even look at somebody, see somebody face to face, in their real color, and get to know real people. Because I mean, the other way of having fun, you barely see people well because it's dark. You barely, you may think the person you're with looks a certain way, but
when the lights are on.
Okay, and how about you, Luther? And now I'd like to ask, so the participants who are here, please also feel free. We will be taking your questions as well, you know, which is the next session we're going to go into. So please, you can start typing any questions you'd have for the panel, and we'll also address that now. But let's hear from Luther as we wait for your questions, all right? And Brian is saying, watu wa Vasha tunawajua. They know themselves. Okay, Luther, go ahead.
So for me, I'm usually not someone to go like partying. I prefer my alone time. So when COVID came, now I decided that this is the time. I hadn't finished some series, so I decided now to take it up, then watch something. But before I became creative now, I made a lot of friends socially on social media, and it came a point that we had to meet. So basically, the first part of the pandemic was very, very brutal. We couldn't even get out of our houses. But later on, we had to make to get out some information to the government so that they could let us gather, because like all the restrictions. But it was, I'd say it was fun, but challenging a lot. But basically, I'd say that I had fun, but I know I'm not a person who usually goes outside a lot. I usually prefer staying indoors,
Okay. So in fact, the people who loved staying indoors, for them, there was no change. In fact, they're telling us, welcome to our world, as far as entertainment, this is how we live. So for Wanjiku, for you, how about on the social side, because I know we've talked about the creative side as far as work is concerned, but as I say, there's no old person here. So how have you maintained your identity, even socially, even during this time?
Okay, well, I'm one of those outside people, so the beginning it wasn't very, I didn't like it. I didn't have a choice, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But if you're committed to something, whatever it is, you're going to make it work. So whatever the relationships or the friendships or the social associations, you'll still make it work. So I remember we, like my friends and I, we started out with Zoom meetings. We used to have like Zoom, like on Fridays, we'd have a drink on Zoom because we couldn't like go out to have the drink. And then when it started opening up, we would maybe like gather in like small groups, not more than like 3 or 4 people, right? Same with family. And always masked up, give me like my dad is like, don't hug me, give me 6 feet, don't come near me, give me 6 feet. So just phone calls, texts, emails, FaceTime, whatever it is that you need to feel that connection, whatever it is that you need to continue with that relationship or connection. So for example, if I want to find out how Brian is, I don't have to meet him in the corridors of ADMI. I have his number. I text him and he's smiling because he knows. I text him or I'll call him or he'll call me, because we were so used to meeting in the, and or like having lunch together in that room that we have lunch. So we're so used to that. So, if that's taken away from me, does that mean I won't speak to Brian or Nzilani or Kroba or you, so you have to, I have your numbers. I can use them. I can call, I can text, I can, all those kinds of things. And then now this year with the vaccine, and for those who have taken it, then it's become even easier to gather, because for those who've gotten the vaccine, you have that added layer of protection, if that's something that you want to do. So the social side, I had to deliberately put in a lot of work into it, because I was also one of those people of, I need to see you to know how you are, but now since I couldn't see you, then now I have to make use of your phone number, your email address, whatever it is, and also vice versa. They had to do that for me as well. So like my sister will only call me on FaceTime. I'm like, no, I want to see you. I'm like, no, but you just call my phone. She's like, no, I don't want a voice call. I want to see you. Yeah, so that for me, that was, and that's what made it like even better. Very easy to tell somebody I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm cool on a message. But then when we see each other, then you can be like, okay, now I can see all of you. But okay, I know Irene is fine. It's fine. But there's some things you can't hide on your face. For me. And I think I'll also say it made my like family bonds and friendships stronger, because we didn't have an option. Imagine now is when you're like, for real, when somebody asks you how are you, you're like, I'm not fine, I'm tired, I'm scared, I'm stressed, because now it gave also that foundation for like openness and honesty and that kind of vulnerability, so that you can be like, okay, I'm not feeling this uncertainty. But without the pandemic, I don't know if some of those avenues would have been opened.
Yes. And I think it's a lot of people before this, as you've said, were not able to express how they really feel or how they really are, so maybe that in itself is a gift, that you've been forced to, at least for the people who feel they're too tough to say they're hurting, they can say I'm hurting because of COVID, they can look for help, which should not be the case. For Brian, how about for you? How would you say your social identity, how has that been impacted by, at this time?
I think like the rest, like last year was really tough, like especially the first month. Like I can't physically go see people, or even the small things you took for granted. Like there's places you could just go meet up people. You could go to art exhibitions. You could social events. Like it reached a point going to the supermarket became a fun time. Like you drive to the supermarket, you do your chores, then you drive the longest way home, because that's like the only, like that's when I realized I'm not a stay in one place type of person.
Yeah.
So that was pretty difficult. And then also the fact that we're doing everything from one place at home.
Yeah.
And there was a feeling of every day was just like another Sunday. Yeah. I don't know if guys felt that first.
It felt like a Monday.
Yeah. And then
it's like every day felt like a Monday for me.
Yeah. And then the flip side, when things started opening up a bit, there was that aspect of, okay, I want freedom, but at the same time, am I being responsible? You know, you have situations where people go, they get sick, and then they infect people that they care about. That inevitably happens. So now you start carrying that feeling of, hey, should I be walking around with this thing? Should I be walking around there? I'm walking around. Like, you're now worried about who you could, like, you're worried that you could get something and then bring it to the people you care about. So I think the whole world needs like some PTSD, like after all this, we all need like some PTSD.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's counseling. Just like, do you remember the last time you shook someone's hand? Like how weird that felt.
Yeah.
Like just to go back to touch without feeling weird about touch.
Yes.
I think that.
I don't know. Will we ever go back there? Will we ever go back to when we're shaking hands? I don't know.
That's the thing. Like I feel like the absence now of touch has also been hard. That's also been a challenge also in itself. Like, and I guess it's good for people to be aware of that. Like be aware of perhaps those ways you used to communicate and used to socialize. That's not there anymore, and it could be affecting you slowly over time.
Yeah.
But I'm deeply grateful. Like the people who are closest to me are not far.
Yeah.
We do meet up. Sometimes it could be as simple as guys watch a movie at our place, or sometimes we just go. Like I like what Irene said. I think places like National Park, they've had a boom. You know, so many people have been going on those type of stuff. Going to like Madaraka Day was really fun because I was with my friends. We went all over different places in Nairobi. Just to be out of the house, enjoy this stuff. I was sad that there's a place where you can go see baby elephants. I was sad to get there and find that they've closed.
Yeah.
Because I've only been there once, but it was such a memorable experience. I wanted to go again this time. I found that closed.
Yes.
So I think I guess for everybody, they're just trying to think, okay, if I can't do this, what else can I do to fill in to charge your battery? So I think creativity also is needed there. Whoever has like good ideas, now you can have fun. Please share them to everyone.
Yes. I think we all need some more suggestions. And Nzilani, I was in a family gathering this last weekend, and there have been a couple after that. But the interesting thing is that at the beginning, I never wanted to go, when all this started. But now recently, you want to go. And, the thing with eating, you have to remove the masks, people have to do that, So, of course, they tried to do the social distancing and all that. But there was real joy of physically being in the same space with everybody, I think that is something that people have really been missing. But I don't know, for you, Nzilani, how has it been like for you? How has your social identity been impacted? And how are you doing in that area?
I think for me, over the time, in terms of social, I think I realized, for me, maybe it was a bit opposite in terms of, actually realized that I used to do too many social things that I maybe didn't even want to do. So maybe I was someone who was too agreeable, maybe used to go see people too much. So actually, when I didn't have to go anywhere and I don't have to make an excuse for it, it was like, whew, okay, I can. Yeah. So I can just stay home and I don't have to make an excuse. So actually, may have had, it's a strange, I mean, opposite. I had a bit of anxiety when now the excuse is gone. So now it's like, oh, what? Yeah. But then, and then for me, some of my closest friends were very, very COVID sensitive. So I couldn't see some of my closest friends for very many months. So that was a bit difficult. That was very, very difficult for me. Probably the most difficult thing. But now it's changed a bit to making sure we see each other. So, but seeing family was a big thing. Probably became closer with family, seeing them a lot more, making sure I socially distantly see my parents as much as possible. But I don't know, I think it's definitely changed things. But I think one thing that's like kind of is that it kind of clarity, I'd say again, clarity in terms of not having too many random things, focusing on the people who really matter, really care, who I really care about. Yeah, just to just, and not caring as much or what they're going to think if you don't want to.
And I think, I mean, you say something really key, that people that really matter. I think many of us have discovered who your true friends are because, you know, like when they didn't have to see you, who looked for you? When they didn't have to call you for anything, who called you, you know?
Exactly. And it was really, and I'm sure it caused a lot of pain. I mean, I heard a lot of people, and for myself, a lot of pain when you realize who really are your friends. Like that could take you through a small depression on top of the COVID depression, you know? So it was difficult. Some of those things were difficult. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Joyce, maybe you can jump in here. You know, there are people who may be hearing us talking about how excited we are. At least we had family. We have, you know, we're excited to be seeing family again. They listened to Irene talking about, you know, she's going on hikes, you know, different things here, activities happening. And for them, they're saying, I have not had anybody. You know, it's like this period has actually highlighted for some people how alone they are. How do they cope with that?
First of all, I've been listening to all these amazing panelists, and I must say what I'm getting are things like reframing, you know, becoming more disciplined, becoming alert, getting back to our core of who we are, our authentic selves. It's really amazing to listen to, you know, how we all, you know, continue through this time. And yes, there are some people who, and you know, it's human. It's just very natural for us to compare ourselves with others. And whenever human beings do that, mostly you think that you're worse off, you know, than somebody else. So I like to call that compare and despair. And so if you're listening to all your friends and they're having such a blast and you haven't had any, you know, I would say reframing would be a very useful thing. To begin to still look around, still open your eyes, still smell the flowers, still see what's going on in your life that's working. Everybody has that. And even if yours may not be at such a visible level or in such a big degree, you do have miracles happening every day. So I would say what Brian mentioned, things like PTSD, I think also somebody else talked about burnout, you know, those are real. And for creatives, especially now that your work has increased, you've got to really take care of yourself. And you've got to start creating those spaces. And so if they're not naturally coming to you, I've had some creatives tell me they're working all day nonstop. That's not possible. I mean, you're a human being. So you actually need to start creating and reach out. Some people have never even found out any more details about their classmates. I mean, that's just, you know, you could literally just use the platform, just reach out and connect with people and just ask them how they're doing. That's how you begin to create for yourself what you need for your life. So I would say there's a big open space for creatives to reframe and to rebuild all from the loss. And I must say, our creatives will help us to navigate the next part. As Brian was saying earlier, when now, and I think now we are hitting, is this fourth wave? I can't keep count anymore, I don't know. And whatever wave we are right now, I mean, creatives will tell us, so now, which ways of thinking can we adopt? I like what Wanjiku was saying. Which ways of feeling are adaptive, which ones are helpful. How can we actually navigate that? And so that's our leadership. That's our wide open space right there. That's the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. A parent could also be, listening and saying, I'm overwhelmed. I'm the creative now also. I'm overwhelmed, got so much on my plate. I have the child to take care of. They're a young person at ADMI who's also going through their own thing. A lot of people draw their identity for the parents from in Africa, somebody is called Mama so-and-so or Baba so-and-so, the father of. So identity is drawn from there. A lot of young people, of course, also identify from, at some point, it's the family you come from, and then it's the ability to have friends. So if you were to speak to somebody now who is the one who is also, how do they assist the young person who needs identity based on connecting with them? Well, they themselves are having their own struggle. Maybe anyone else can pop in with that. What would help? So I pointed at Joyce, but I think Irene, you seem to want to say something.
I saw Irene has unmuted. Let's hear from her.
Yes.
I like to call our students student teachers. They teach us so much. Yeah.
They are. Yeah, please go ahead.
The first thing I think I would tell somebody, even the people who look like they have it all together, they all suffer. It's just that they don't tell, So sometimes what I will tell someone who is going, it's more of withdrawal. They don't feel like they fit in anywhere. The best thing is, there's someone who said this, if you feel like you're not fitting in their table, create your own table and invite people there. So just, and that starts with self-love, knowing yourself, first of all, and what makes you happy. I think that is what I will tell someone who is going through that. And don't compare yourself with other people, because you don't know what their struggles are. And from what I know, everyone has their own struggles, have their own weaknesses. We're all struggling with something, but just that you choose to identify, then you choose the right path. You just choose to be happy. Like personally, sometimes what I do, maybe I might be somewhere really boring. People are just bored and say, if listenable. I never say that, never. It's something that I started I think when I was in primary, like this guy never said that keep listenable. Do this, create your own fun and make it fun, unless you want to be bored. If being bored is my main objective, I will be bored. But if I don't want to be bored, even if everyone else is bored to death, I will create my own fun. So make your company. First of all, if you love your company, you will love other people's company, and people will somehow want to be in your own company, because what? You're a vibe in a way. So love yourself and love your own company, first of all, and know what makes you happy, not what other people think is happy. Yeah.
Very, very good. Nzilani, you want to say something on that before we take it to Joy?
I'm just agreeing. I think that's the biggest thing, when you're alone, you have to be able to be with yourself first. It's that whole thing of love yourself, then you can love others.
Yeah, just to add, I agree with all of you. Just to add, I think that sometimes we know ourselves by our relationships with others and, by talking. I would say as we are in conversation with people, we discover aspects of ourselves, aspects that were lost, aspects that were missing, aspects that were, wounded, and those things are what make us who we are, right? And so I would say also processing whatever's going on with your friends, family, that kind of returns you to really know who you really are or what you're good at as
well. Okay, Wanjiku, you want to say something on that?
I'm so sorry, what was the question again?
It was just touching on the person who may be sitting and feeling like for them, they don't have the life that we're talking about, some of the connections we're talking about. So they're lonely, they're in college. Or to the person who's the one raising this this person.
Wow, it's tough. I think it's important also to know there's always an avenue, you know. If you don't want to speak to Joyce, you can, you know, the counsellor, you can speak to Madam President. You don't speak to the President, you can speak to Ciku. I think people like, okay, let me use myself. So sometimes I used to feel alone because my preferred method of, or the person that I preferred to speak to wasn't available to me at the time. So then sometimes that would make me feel like, now if I can't speak to Ciku, then I can't speak. So, you know, knowing that you have options, we are available, and it's, you know, you go to the person that you're either you resonate with, most aligned to, whatever it is. So depending on what your needs are at the time. If you're like me and you need tough love, I know where to go to somebody who's going to give me tough love, right? But if you need, you know, a softer touch, hugs and rainbows, then you know where to go. Somebody who to, you know, sugarcoat everything and give. So it just depends. But first of all, just know there are avenues you can go through. Very many. Number two, also, I think we all collectively, parents, students, faculty, whoever it is, need to develop an active listening culture. Sometimes somebody is not talking to you because they want a solution, they just want an outlet. It's just keep quiet, listen, and maybe that's all they want. And, you know, they're done. Sometimes they're coming to you for advice, for help. So an active listening culture means to understand what it is you're saying, what you're telling me, and, you know, we can discuss what the best course of action is there, versus me listening to respond and tell you how you're wrong and tell you how we did it in my day, and, you know, those kinds of things. So on sides of the spectrum, those are the things I would say, you know. So even for parents, sponsors, caregivers, you know, guardians, because even them, in as much as you're the adult in the room, you still need to speak to somebody, you still need an outlet, you still, because I can't collect all these things that students are telling me and then just sit. I also need to unload myself in some way, shape, or form. So also recognizing that, you know, even in as much as I'm the adult in the room, I can't exist in a vacuum. I also need to make sure that I'm okay, so that I can make sure everybody else is okay.
I love that. I love it's an active listening culture. Sometimes we may miss that, and especially even, you know, of course I'm talking because I know we have some of our parents here as well, that, you know, we are also busy, caught up in so much, and often when the young person wants to talk, it's not at the most convenient time. You know, you may be trying, talk to me, but they don't talk then. It is when, you know, you may be trying to do something else that they want to, but realizing how some crises can be averted by actually listening, just hearing the person out, But of course, even for us, as you know, even I know the faculty, many of you, I know you take a lot of time listening. I mean, you would listen. There's a lot that's happening, you know. Some of the people Joyce gets to meet may have passed through some of these hands, you know. But I think also that I like also what you said about how it's the time when you needed to talk, the person you may have wanted to talk to may not have been able to talk to you, but you don't give up on talking because that person is not there. If you need to be heard, keep touching, keep reaching out. That is so important. Okay, so I'm trying to see if there are any questions in the chat. A few questions for our panel. Irene, do you have any questions as I get, I know you're supposed to co-host with me. So anything you may have had from any of the students. I know we may not be able to take too many because of time, but we really are available for your questions. It doesn't have to just be on identity. It could be to do with, okay, all right, there is actually one. Oh, somebody was typing, very good. We live in an extremely extroverted society, social media and people as well. It can drown us so much, but solitude, journaling is very important. I read that at times we get mental clarity through a series of physical and emotional experiences. So I think for us it's more of a comment. So we seek it. Let's through meditating, journaling, and all the rest. Actually, for me, journaling really, really helps me, for me at a personal level. This will help you get through. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, Miri, for that. This is really good. Anyone else with a comment or question? Irene, do you have any as well? Or Luther?
I could comment on extraversion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so extraversion, introversion is how much gratification you take from, being with other people. So your sense of psychological gratification or satisfaction. And for me, I'm an ambivert. I'm right in the middle. All the tests I've done from when I was young, I have, I'm both introverted and extroverted and right in the middle. And I would say for this time, this season, and in any population, there are more extroverts than introverts. Introverts are the minority. So I think this question is about, external factors and how we can navigate our changing social situations, And so again, creating a space or a bubble where you actually feel held and cared for. That is self-care, and that's very critical. Especially for introverts, I think introverts have been having a field day, in my view. I think they've had a wonderful time, when you're told to stay at home, so much easier than having to always figure out people. But there are people who, when they're in social situations, they get a lot of social anxiety. That's actually something that can be intervened for. So if you are really scared going out back into social circles, and now with all the guidelines in place and where people can still convene, that would be something that you're welcome to come talk about. And we can process what's over there, what happens, especially with social anxiety, and how you can be more adaptable to these changing situations. Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. Maybe I can ask something, because it's been alluded to in the chat, we often find, especially now as we go into, diversity, we come from different backgrounds, different religious beliefs, different orientation, and so my question is my identity tied to religion? Is my identity tied to the socio-economic background? Is my identity tied to my sexual orientation? Or do I need to find it somewhere else? Is it tied to those things? Is it limited to those things? So maybe this I'm throwing to Joyce and then to everybody else.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So you're really right. There are different ways we know ourselves from what other people tell us, but from also our inside of us, So we do exist in different diversities, and celebrating diversity as a strength would be one thing that I would say ADMI is good at. And that we are different doesn't mean that that's bad, and we just have to take into account that to live together, there are different things we have to do to negotiate spaces with each other, and so that we accommodate one of us. One of the things I champion a lot is such as disability inclusion. So, the point I'm making here is that yes, sometimes you may find external aggression on who you are as your identity, but then who are you in that space? If there is something that's in the societal inequality that's on your life, then again, who are you in that space? So again, back to the question of who you are being, all right?
Yes.
So you're a human being, and who are you being in that space? A lot of times, those people belonging into different minority groups, they are the most compassionate and the most understanding people because they know what it is like to be different. Right? So you find in any grouping, they're the people with whom a lot of unconditional love will come from because they know what it is like to be excluded, to be ignored, to never be given a space. And so again, who you're being in every situation is really what I'm alluding to. And again, self-care, if you're looking at all the facets of well-being that I spoke about, physical, social, spiritual, by the time, you're done improving each and every aspect of your life, in that case, then you will have holistic well-being. So our identity is tied to our mental health and our holistic well-being.
Very good. Wanjiku, you look like you wanted to say something on it.
Yeah, I think also, in as much, okay, for me, I would define, you know, my identity is something that I place the most value on, okay? And therefore, that is how I want to be seen, that's how I want to be perceived, that's how I want to be addressed, that's how I present myself, those kinds of. And Joyce said something about, you know, who are you in that space? And therefore, there are always going to be these labels and whatever it is that society wants to put on you in terms of how you should be. And a lot of the, whether it's anguish, irritation, frustration, comes from trying to negotiate for your space in that, you know, where you are, so that I can say, Brian, this is who I am, but Brian is like this who you should be, but I'm like this who I am. Right. So for me, sometimes, yes, Joyce said, let's negotiate, you know, for our space in, you know, where you are, but sometimes you have to dictate. Sometimes you negotiate, but sometimes you have to dictate, because if I'm presenting, this is who I am, and this is what I believe, and this is how I want to be addressed, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But society still insists that this, no, but you're not like, for example, I'll give you a very good example. There's a workmate of mine that from South Africa, and they call me, so I'll be like, yeah, my name is Wanjiku, but they call me Wanjiku. I'm like, listen, that's not my name is Wanjiku. Like, I'll even help you like to pronounce it, you know, but they keep calling me Wanji. You know, I don't respond. They didn't send an email, hi Wanji, can we please, I don't respond. They didn't send it to me. They sent
but it's not to you.
It's Wanji is going to, you know, so until, so it got to a place that, you know, something almost went seriously wrong, and it was going to be their fault, that they were like, oh, okay. Like, because for them, they were like, but I don't understand, it's just your name. Yeah, but it's mine. So it could be something as small as that. You know, but for me, my name is a big thing, or it could be whatever it is that, you know, you have set this boundary and people are not respecting. So you negotiate, it's fine, we discuss and, you know, we debate, but sometimes you have to dictate and be like, imagine, no, this is non-negotiable, this is where I am, and this is where I'm going to meet me. So in as much as we go out and meet people and they come and meet us, well, sometimes that doesn't work.
And it's interesting how when it's African names seem to be very difficult to pronounce, but
and they can pronounce
Eastern European names.
But it's by name they can't pronounce. No. So, you know, sometimes that frustration and that, you know, it's because of the people that, maybe even the people that matter most to you, not accepting or taking in what you're saying. So that's why you see sometimes even we lash out, you know, people will be like, hey, but Wanjiku is acting out of turn, that's not how she behaves, but it's a reaction to circumstance. So for me, in as much I choose peace, I'm a peace-loving human being, I negotiate a lot, but sometimes I dictate, and if you don't like it also, now that becomes a you problem, it's no longer my problem.
Defining your boundaries, setting some boundaries. And, you know, we're told that people will, you teach people how to treat you. I think, you know, you teach people how to treat you. So when it's disrespect, then of course, you know, you must draw the line, as Wanjiku has said. There's also the aspect of when, you know, there's a negotiating aspect as well, whereby when you realize, for instance, if we are domiciled in Africa, there's some things that come with that, you know, and you learn how to still be professional and respectful while still maintaining your boundaries, you know, still maintaining your dignity as a person, as a human being, you know. I think some of the spaces we're entering into as women, for instance, were not spaces we could enter in the past, you know, and men are relearning how to handle women in the same space as them. You know, because some of the industries, like the industry Wanjiku is in, and Irene and Luther are in, is very male dominated. So learning how to, again, be handled in that space, regardless of your, you know, of your gender, you know. On the other hand, there's a space of whereby we're not pushing the men off the table or anybody else. We all want everybody on the table to coexist and to do well. I think we have 2 comments, which I'll read. And anyone who wants to say something, we can say, because now we're coming to a close. I thank you so much, Joyce. I see Joyce has actually shared her contact in the chat. So if anybody feels they need to talk to her, she doesn't only talk to you when you're in a crisis. Sometimes when you just want to figure things out and how to do better at what you're doing well, she's also available for that. But I know she'll speak in her closing remarks. So let me read.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. My name is Stephen.
Yes, Stephen.
Yes, Stephen. I'm from Catholic University of Eastern Africa. One of you had sent me a link to this conference.
Oh, nice to have you here.
Nice to have you here. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've learned a lot.
Oh, so glad to hear that.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, so Catholic University was represented.
We are so excited to hear
that. When is this happening again?
It's every semester, so the next one will be in a few months' time.
Keep us posted.
Oh, definitely will.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I see there's someone saying USIU Africa is also represented. Great, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mary. You're most welcome. So let me read. Felix says, maybe it's better to know the person before you start acting like you have been knowing them all through. I think he was responding to, was it Wanjiku or somebody's comment? Huh? Yeah, because some people don't take time to get to know you. They immediately, like Wanjiku's case, somebody baptized her and expected her to answer. She had no idea what she was dealing with. Okay, I think I'll take closing remarks from the panel. We can start with our students. We can start with Irene, then we go to Luther, even as we close. Any closing remarks or questions you may have for the rest of the panel?
Okay, I'll start with the remarks first of all, and then I'll go with the question.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just add on what you've said and also what you can say on what defines you, like religion, your gender, and everything. So how personally I take it is they don't define me, but they're like Google Maps. They direct me to where I am. So my religion, my gender, my everything will lead me to the real Irene, the person I am. So sometimes we get lost with this, we get lost in religion, we get lost in our gender, we get lost in our profession at times, but we lose who we really are. And that now brings me to the question. So there's Irene. I'll just use Irene as an example. So there's Irene, the school president, there's Irene, the student, Irene, the hiker, the hiking, one who likes fine, and then there's Irene, the profession, and Irene doing her projects, say podcast, for example. So, and in all these, there are people revolved around this, like there's this identity of people, So how do you manage all this and not lose yourself? And also, there's also Irene the Christian, there's the church life also. There's all these things that revolve the Irene, the daughter, the sister. And this is one person. So how do you manage all this? And then the midst of a pandemic, and brokenness, if I can add on top, and not lose yourself, because I feel like that is where the mental state comes in. You forget yourself and end up becoming a robot. So I think this is to Joyce. How can you advise on that? It'd be someone who's in that state or almost getting there.
And I think I'd also want to hear from Nzilani or Wanjiku or Brian also, because they're also having to do that. We are many things to different people at different times. And you're trying to deliver on all those platforms. How do you do that without losing yourself or burning out, going into anxiety, going into the feeling of not being enough? All those struggles, inner struggles. So I guess we'll start with Joyce and anyone else who wants to jump in.
Sure. So I really like what Irene said. I'm going to pick that from you. I hope it's not copyrighted, the Google Maps. So I agree. We are not passive spectators. We are creators of our lives. And actually, if we would like to be integrated and whole in ourselves, we can start to break negative patterns, heal from the past, especially the past that's hurtful. And then we can create our conscious self. So this webinar is an awakening to who your authentic self really is. And I would say at the foundation or at the core of who we are our values. So those things that we say we are. And so recreating ourselves starts from there. And we could create ourselves to anything we want to be. And I really would like to recognize the importance of struggle. We've talked about some of us struggling in different periods of this season and also holding hands and helping each other. So that struggle in itself is a journey and it's a lesson for each one of us. And so we can keep drawing lessons from that and making meaning by reframing those things that are really negative into lessons. And I wish everyone well. I will be waiting to hear from our students, when you contact me, and I am quite available to have more conversations on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce, for that. Brian, you want to say something on this?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll just go back to, there's something, I don't know if it was Irene or Luther who said before, where sometimes you could be forcing yourself to please everybody or to hang out with many people. But there's being by yourself and then there's being lonely. There's two different things I've learned. Like, you can be by yourself and you're not necessarily lonely. And then you can be very lonely trying to keep up with so many different people. So I think a big part of identity is protecting yourself, putting boundaries on who you are, allowing yourself to be in a space where there's grace for me to grow, there's grace for me to learn and unlearn things and slowly become that who I am. Be in a space where you're accepted for who you are. So it's very important that you're kind of cultivating who are the people who are going to be in your innermost circle. You don't want to have people who are expecting things from you that are not, like if I'm a fish, I'm not going to climb a tree, or if I'm a giraffe, I'm not going to swim in the ocean. I think we're all individuals who all have different capacities and different abilities in different ways. And the people you allow closest to you that will also have a big impact in helping you define your identity need to be people who are very much loving and accepting, or as much as they're also keeping you accountable, they've accepted you in everything that you are and walking with you on that journey to you discovering and pushing you sometimes to get better. But I struggled a lot growing up, like Nzilani alluded into that a bit. Sometimes you can be keeping up with the Joneses or trying to please too many people, or sometimes you're also keeping people around that are really, maybe even they don't realize it. They're sort of comparing you to other things or expecting you to be something that you're not, or there's so much of that in today's society that you feel I need to be like this or I need to be like that. Luther just said him is not really someone to go to the club. There's a walk of life where people might be like, when you say nini bad, like, so we go fun times. But that's who him is. So imagine if he lets people close to him who have not accepted him for who he is. They're always trying to change him to be something else. That can be that was a source of many problems for me growing up. So it brought a lot of peace when you're like, you know what, yeah, I'm cool with who I am. And the other things I'll work on slowly. And then I'll allow people close to me that are helping that process. They're flourishing that process. And that's also a process also in its own. Yeah. So I'm also learning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Nzilani or Wanjiku, want to say something on that?
Yeah, I can just agree mainly with what Brian has said. And yeah, I think that's a big thing. I mean, also if your personality is someone who does please or something, which I have been, and it's something that I'm just learning to just set those boundaries and just decide this is what's important. These are the people who matter, like I said before, and just try and keep those people closest. And also in like what I do, like, so also boundaries in the work that I do, not just doing any work for anyone. This happens a lot with graphic designers. I don't know, but you're being told, oh, just do a logo for me as for a friend, you know? And that also takes your time and your energy. So it's just learning to put boundaries. That's a very big thing. And just, I think that really can help you conserve yourself, like just keep yourself to yourself. And then just to tap into yourself and remember who you are often, like whichever way you're going to do it, whether it's affirmations or writing somewhere, looking back, remembering who you are so that you can just come back to that person as much as you can. Yeah, and if you just, you know, leave yourself sometimes, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Just you've made mistakes or whatever, just recalibrate. It's okay to just change and start again and do the thing again. It's okay. You can just forgive yourself for those things.
Oh, very good. Very good. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. Give yourself more chances, not just one.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Thank you, Wanjiku. Want to say anything on that?
No, I agree with everybody. And I think, Irene, also, there's a point where all those different Irenes, or all those, the ones that you mentioned, there's a point they meet. I'm sure they have a sense, you know, it's like a Venn diagram, you know, when you draw the circles and they're all intersect at a point, right? So there's a point where they meet. And okay, like for me on my Venn diagram, so, you know, Wanjiku, the daughter, the auntie, the friend, the sister, whatever it is, at the core of that Venn diagram is Wanjiku, and me, I'm the core. So therefore, all these other things are correlated or interrelated because of me, not because of them. It's because of me. So therefore, I come first so that I'm able to serve all these other functions. But if we think about the function first, or the role or whatever, and then yourself secondary, then you start to be overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, it's my friend's birthday. I wanted to go, but then I have a deadline. But who has all these things? It's you. So start here and then move outward instead of outward, and then now trying to come back to the core. That's what I would advise. At the core of all these things, it's Irene who's there. So first start with Irene, check in, even get a notebook. Is Irene fine? Is Irene happy today? Is she hydrated? Did she drink water? Okay, did she get enough sleep? Like, no, you're laughing, but it's true. It's true. And then now after that, okay, we have established Irene is fine. Okay, so since Irene is fine, then she can meet the deadline for producing 4:1. Okay, she can do her podcast, right? She can go on the hike. And then she can, you know, have a Zoom call with blah, blah. But if Irene is not fine, all these other things won't happen. So just remember, at the core of it all, it's you. So take care of you first, then you can serve all these other functions.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you so much for that. All right. So I think now we can continue with the closing remarks. Luther, your closing remarks. And as we close. Hey.
So for me, I'd like to say something about everybody in some way has ever experienced something that makes them question their mental states. And I think the thing that I know about students, the main part of mental health that stresses us is the peer pressure. And not only students, but also people who are outside the schools. So basically what I'd advise, what I've heard somewhere and I've also tried to use, is that first of all, we need to track our progress. The little wins, to dogo. We need to always track them, and gratitude, our achievements. They usually help so much, like making us be clear in our mental state. Then the next thing would be working on our strengths. We don't need to focus on all our weaknesses. We need to know our weaknesses, but we don't need to focus more on them. We need to focus on our strengths. That's that is going to help us like move on. Like we all try to be our voice in our own generation. So I think that whenever we have a problem, we need to just reach out. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Luther. Thank you. Closing remarks, Nzilani. Then we go to Brian, then we go to Wanjiku as we close.
I guess kind of like what I just said before, that your identity might take time to find. I think even myself, I'm still finding every day. It changes. Things will come and challenge you that make you doubt yourself, maybe make you wonder. But then I'll look back sometimes and I'll see, oh, I knew 5 years ago, I knew myself, I knew who I am. So you can go back to those times and just remember who you are and just try and keep your center, like your true north, kind of your compass as you're going, try and keep that place, because there will be things that will pull you, things will distract you. But again, just forgive yourself and just try and come back. It's okay. And I think the more you do that, it's like a practice. You will keep coming back to yourself every time and finding out yourself. Yeah, I think just be kind to yourself. Yeah, because struggles will come, challenges come. Be kind.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Ryan, your closing remarks?
I think mine is just to say thanks also to everyone who shared. Like, there's a little bit I've learned from everybody. And to echo what some have said, like, definitely just have grace for yourself, the people that you choose to be around you. Have grace for them, and it will just naturally fit. Like, but also acknowledge that, life doesn't come with like a foolproof. There's no like strict plan, like this year I do this, next year I do this. Like everything, you're kind of gonna be figuring out as you go. And as soon as you're used to one level, the next level comes with its unexpected things. So definitely just the more, like the people who've attended today will probably leave more aware of themselves, and that's a good thing. For the dudes, especially the ones I'm talking to, there's this thing going around called toxic masculinity, which is definitely a thing. So just be aware of it. Don't kid yourself that you need to be some superhero all the time. Definitely be aware of scenarios which kind of force you to not necessarily always accept your vulnerability, or to not be at peace with, or be okay with. Sometimes you have weaknesses. Always just be in a space where you have grace for yourself to grow and learn from the mistakes you've made and get better. And acknowledge also sometimes the things you've gone through that will make you go into certain patterns that are not healthy for yourself. But more than anything, I think that's a whole 3 webinars on its own, just toxic masculinity. But it's good to just be aware of those things and to have grace for yourself. Don't fall into that. Don't be in the gym trying to lift 150 kg and your limit is 60 for now. That day will come. Like whatever that capacity you're trying to aim to will come if you have grace for yourself and you have the discipline and you just put kind people around you. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Oh, thank you so much. And I think you should host a webinar on that with the men. Thank you, Brian. Wanjiku, your closing remarks?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. One, be kind to yourself, or kinder, okay? Don't beat yourself up, especially if it's not a problem of your own making. It's fine. And even if it is, process, be like, okay. And then you can take a break, but don't quit. I think that's what I would say. Luther said this, and I agree with him 100%. Celebrate whatever big, small wins. A win is a win is a win is a win. So please celebrate yourself. your wins, your accomplishments, you feel like you achieved something for you, please celebrate it in whatever way you want to, because it gives you the motivation and, you know, the excitement to go on to the next task. And I think the one thing the pandemic has taught us is even though we thought we had a lot of time, we don't really have a lot of time, right? So whatever it is that you're interested in, you want to get into, you want to start doing, you want to learn, if it's, you know, relationships you want to strengthen or fix or start or whatever, please do it, because we don't have as much time as we think. But also on that same vein of time, just make sure whatever you're putting your time into is something that you actually want to, because the price of anything is the amount of life that you exchange for it. So the amount of life I'm exchanging for hiking, the amount of life I'm exchanging for yoga, the amount of life I'm exchanging for work, that's the price. Because, you know, me, I'll be here till 110. So in my 110 years, you know, I'm calculating it in that way, in the amount of life and time that I am putting towards it. So if I'm wasting this time, then there's no point, right? So that's, for me, that's something that came out for me so clearly in the past year and a half. And people normally get so shocked. They'll be like, oh, but Wanjiku, do you want to? I'll be like, no. They'll be like, why? I'm like, because I don't want to. That's it. Because we are not wasting time anymore. We don't want to. So please remember that the price of anything is the amount of life that you're giving into it. So please don't waste it. And please have fun while you're doing it. Yeah, that's what I would say. Oh, also, just one side comment to all the students that, you know, we've been with since March 2020. I'm just talking about in the pandemic, and we had to do our exams online and then learn online. Like Akina Luther, I met them in SEM 1 online, and now they're in SEM 4. And let me tell you, my heart could burst. I'm so proud of them. So thank you guys also for sticking in it with us, you know, putting in the work. You already know we have had this discussion several times, so I'm not going to tell people our, you know, class discussions. But I also want to say thank you to like all the students across the board. It's not been easy learning in a pandemic, so thank you guys for, you know, putting in your part even when it was hard. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. From all of us, it's congratulations. Thank you so much, Wanjiku, for that. Joyce, closing remarks.
I've given my closing remarks, but again, to just reiterate, we can all reconstruct our identity. They're not fixed in stone, you know. Yeah. Some people argue, who is an African? Is it the color of your skin? Is it your experiences? What makes you African, you know? Yeah. But I say that it is what you would like you to be, you know, that's who you are. Yeah. And so this is malleable. This is something we can also create together. And I think as ADMI, we also have a collective identity. We are known for quality. We're known for all these wonderful things. So let's keep redefining our identity and reaching out to our friends, especially those who are struggling, so that we hold hands and move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I want to say a big thank you to all our participants who've been with us throughout this entire afternoon. And I also want to say a big thank you to the panel. Thank you so very much. I mean, as I said earlier, for Mike, Wanjiku, Brian, and Nzilani, it was a second time on board due to public demand. And of course, it was so wonderful to be joined by Irene and Luther, who really have voiced given us another, the perspective of the student as well as the young person in the creative media industry. I am so grateful that you're all able to join us. As always, Joyce, it's such a pleasure to have you speak to us and speak to those matters that really impact on our mental health, because we know that we cannot be well unless our mental health is also well. And so we are so grateful for that. So thank you very much, everybody. We're going to end it here. Till next time, bye-bye and God bless. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.